Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, in this video, we want to take you to discover an extraordinary event that awaits us in 2025, the Jubilee. It is a special event, rich in meaning and history, which involves millions of faithful throughout the world. But do you know what makes this Jubilee unique? On this occasion, it will be dedicated in a special way to those who undertake a journey of faith, the Pilgrims. And in fact, the theme chosen for the Jubilee of 2025 is Pilgrims of Hope. A title that speaks to the heart, that recalls the idea of a journey that is not only physical but also spiritual, towards a destination made of faith, renewal, and divine grace. But before we dive into the practical details, how we can best prepare and live this time of grace in a truly meaningful way, let's take a step back in history together. Where does this ancient tradition come from? Why is the Jubilee so important in the life of the Church? And what can we learn from past celebrations to fully experience this extraordinary experience in the present? Get ready. We are about to embark on a journey through time and spirit to discover an event that has the power to transform not only our faith, but also our lives. The concept of Jubilee has very ancient roots, even in the Old Testament of the Bible. This tradition has its origins in Jewish culture, where every 50 years a special year was established, dedicated to the rest of the earth and the renewal of society. During this particular year, known as the Jubilee Year, extraordinary events occurred that had profound practical and spiritual significance. The land was left to rest, a gesture that had the aim of regenerating its fertility and ensuring better harvests for the future. But it wasn't just a time dedicated to agriculture, it was much more. Debts were canceled, a symbolic and concrete act to re-establish social equity. The slaves, those who had lost their freedom, were freed, a gesture of profound mercy. Furthermore, the expropriated lands were returned to their rightful owners, underlining a return to justice and harmony among people. It was in essence a time of great joy and celebration, but also of deep reflection. An opportunity to return to the fundamental values of justice, mercy, and solidarity, values that resonated strongly in the community of the time. The beginning of this special year was announced in a solemn way with the sound of a ram's horn, called in Hebrew Yobel, and it is from this word that the Christian term Jubilee derives. But how did this concept reach us? The Catholic Church was able to take inspiration from this ancient biblical tradition, transforming it into something new, deeply linked to the Christian faith. In the context of the Church, the Jubilee, also known as the Holy Year, has become an extraordinary time of grace and spiritual renewal. During this special time, the Pope grants the faithful the opportunity to obtain plenary indulgence, a unique spiritual gift. To receive it, believers are invited to make pilgrimages to Rome or other designated destinations, participating in religious practices such as confession, communion, and prayer for the Pope and the Church. In this way, the Jubilee is not only a liturgical event, but a personal and collective journey of faith, an opportunity to rediscover oneself and strengthen the bond with God and with one's neighbor. It is a moment when the past meets the present, and ancient traditions reveal their eternal relevance. The tradition of the Christian Jubilee has a long and fascinating history that has its roots in the Middle Ages. The first official Jubilee was proclaimed in 1300 by Pope Boniface VIII. This great event marked the beginning of a tradition that would accompany the life of the Church for centuries to come. On that occasion, the Pope established that the Jubilee would be celebrated every 100 years, offering the faithful a rare and precious opportunity for spiritual renewal. As time passed, however, the frequency of these holy years was revised. At first, it was decided to celebrate it every 50 years, in line with the Jewish tradition from which it draws inspiration, but then the Jubilees took on different cadences, often influenced by historical events and the spiritual needs of the time. Today, ordinary Jubilees take place every 25 years, a choice that allows each generation to live this extraordinary experience at least once in their life. From the first Jubilee of 1300 to that of 2000, 26 ordinary Jubilees were celebrated. To these are added the Extraordinary Jubilees, which are proclaimed on special occasions or in difficult moments for the Church and the world. Of these, there are 95 in history. The duration of a Jubilee is generally 1 year, but each carries with it a unique meaning. For example, the Jubilee of 2000 was particularly significant. It celebrated 2 millennia since the birth of Christ, representing the first Jubilee spanning 2 millennia. A symbolic and spiritual event of universal significance that left a deep mark on the hearts of the faithful. But what happens during a Jubilee? This special time is an open invitation to all believers. The faithful are called to experience a journey of interior renewal and closer contact with God. The main practices include pilgrimages to holy places, confession, participation in Mass, and works of charity. These concrete gestures are not simply symbolic, they represent a spiritual journey towards divine grace. Furthermore, during the Jubilee, the faithful can obtain plenary indulgence or the remission of temporal punishments linked to sins already confessed. The next Jubilee, that of 2025, will be another extraordinary occasion to live this experience of faith. It will begin on December 24, 2024, Christmas Eve, at 4:30 p.m., with a solemn ceremony marking the opening of the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica. This symbolic gesture, led by Pope Francis, will mark the official beginning of the Holy Year, which will end exactly 1 year later, on December 24, 2025. The Jubilee is therefore an extraordinary event that develops throughout an entire year, characterized by numerous celebrations and initiatives that involve the community of the faithful throughout the world. As already mentioned, the Holy Year begins with a highly symbolic and evocative ceremony. The opening of the Holy Doors, located in the 4 major basilicas of Rome, St. Peter's in the Vatican, St. John Lateran, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul outside the walls. The opening ceremony in St. Peter's Basilica is a moment of great emotion and solemnity. The Pope is accompanied to the walled-up Holy Door, carried on the traditional gestatorial chair. With a silver hammer, symbol of divine justice, he knocks 3 times on the door, pronouncing in Latin the words, "Open the doors of justice." This powerful gesture recalls the invitation to all the faithful to symbolically enter into the grace of God. After him, a cardinal repeats the gesture, knocking on the door twice. Finally, the door is opened, marking the official beginning of the Holy Year. The Pope is the first to cross the Holy Door, carrying a cross in his right hand and a lit candle in his left, symbols of faith and the light of Christ that guides believers. Similar ceremonies take place in the other 3 major basilicas, led by cardinals. At the end of the Holy Year, the Holy Doors are closed again, to symbolize the conclusion of a special time of grace, awaiting the next Jubilee. The Jubilee promises to be an extraordinary opportunity for each of us, a unique occasion to renew our faith and rediscover God's infinite mercy. Pope Francis, in introducing the Jubilee, explained that this is a special time to let our hearts be touched by grace, to open ourselves to hope and trust in God, who never disappoints. It is a powerful invitation to rediscover the deepest meaning of our faith and to become witnesses of hope in a world often marked by conflict, fear, and confusion. As the Pope reminds us, we are not men and women of fear, but of hope. But how can we concretely experience the Jubilee and draw the maximum spiritual benefit from it? First, we are called to a journey of conversion, which means returning to the Lord with all our heart. This is the starting point, a sincere intention to renew and reinvigorate our faith. We can do this through concrete gestures, such as daily prayer, which puts us in direct contact with God, attentive listening to the gospel, which illuminates our life choices, and a deeper spiritual formation, which helps us to better understand and internalize the cornerstones of our faith. The Jubilee is not just a celebratory event, but a true interior journey, a time of grace that pushes us to become better people, closer to God and more open to others. It is up to us to seize this opportunity to transform our hearts and live as authentic witnesses of hope in the world. During the Jubilee, there cannot be a lack of some symbolic and profound initiatives that enrich the spiritual experience of this extraordinary time. Among these, pilgrimages stand out, representing a central and meaningful element. The faithful are invited to undertake a journey towards Rome, the eternal city, the heart of Christianity and the seat of the Pope. But pilgrimages are not limited to the Italian capital. The main cathedrals and Jubilee sanctuaries throughout the world also become highly attractive destinations. These places, rich in history and spirituality, offer the opportunity to experience moments of profound communion with God and with other believers. Pilgrimage, however, is much more than a simple physical journey. It is a true symbol of the interior journey that every believer is called to take towards God. Crossing the Holy Door, one of the most emblematic gestures of the Jubilee, represents an act of conversion and a personal commitment to renew one's life. It is like crossing a threshold that marks the passage from an old life to a new life, closer to the gospel. During the Jubilee, the faithful also have the opportunity to obtain plenary indulgence, an extraordinary spiritual gift which consists in the remission of the temporal punishment of sins already confessed. To receive it, it is necessary to follow some indications established by the Church. These include sacramental confession, which reconciles us with God, participation in Mass and Eucharistic communion, which nourishes us with the body and blood of Christ, and prayer according to the intentions of the Pope. These simple but profound gestures help us to fully live the spiritual meaning of the Jubilee. Pope Francis, with his charisma and sensitivity, wanted to underline the importance of the works of mercy as an integral part of the Jubilee experience. He repeatedly recalled that the Jubilee is not only a time of prayer and reflection, but also an opportunity to concretely put God's love into practice. The works of mercy, both corporal and spiritual, invite us to reach out to our brothers and sisters in difficulty, bearing witness to divine mercy with concrete gestures. Pope Francis reminds us that mercy is not an abstract idea, but a concrete reality through which God reveals his love. And so, helping those who are hungry, welcoming those in difficulty, consoling those who suffer, or forgiving those who have hurt us, become actions that give shape to our Christian commitment. Thank you so much for following us up to this point. We hope this video has helped you better understand the meaning and value of the Jubilee. If you enjoyed it, please like and share it with your friends to help us spread this message of hope. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on upcoming content about faith and spirituality. Thanks again, and see you next time.
Thank you.